Alright, how's it going, guys? We are here for a special request video today. Somebody is having problems understanding the power and how to get certain amounts for certain machines. So, we're here to kind of explain it today and see if it will help them and anybody else, I guess. And I guess this is a decent enough place to start here. So, these are sifting machines. And if we look up the sifter, this is a bronze sifter, which requires 32 KU per tick. That is the median of what this machine can handle. It can handle anywhere from what's in brackets there, 16 to 64. So if we look at, say, coal, by the way, all the recipes, as far as I know, are all the same, at least for the amount per tick. And if we look here, it says usage 16 GU a tick, excuse me. And as I explained in the energy video, which I will link here if anybody wants to go back and review that, the GU stands for generic units, and it goes by whatever you are actually giving it and required to give it for that machine. So if we look here at the bronze sifter, again, it says 32 from 16 to 64, and it has to be KU. So that needs kinetic units. And it only needs the bare minimum to run. Now you can run it at 64 or 32 or anything in between, and that will just overclock that recipe, make it run a little bit faster. But it will not have an overclocking charge until you go to a higher tier machine. So if we went up to the next tier machine, which is steel, which goes from 64 to 256, it's going to process 8 times versus 4 times in the bronze, but you're going to have a 1 overclocking charge to jump from the bronze machine to the steel machine. And again, up to the titanium, so on and so forth. And let me turn these noisy guys off. So, since we need KU, you have different options. You can use a kinetic engine, which is this right here, that is steam driven. And if we look up the engine, my fat fingers have hit the right keys. So we need 16. Well, the bronze one can put out 6 to 24. So that will fill what we need if we give it 96 steam a tick. So you have to look at your energy out and you have to look at your energy in and determine how much of the previous type of energy you need to give it. In this case, it's 96 steam for 24 KU. Now, if you're wanting to do steel, it's the same efficiency as the bronze. So if you do the actual math and you take steam is half always off the top. So if you take 128 steam, cut that in half, that's going to give you 64. And then your efficiency is 50%. So 64 cut in half again is 32. And that is where you get your 32 KU a tick from 128 steam. It is a little confusing because it's just a normal thing in GregTech that steam costs twice as much energy as any other energy unit. It was kind of confusing for me as well when I started looking at these. So in this case, if we were wanting to run at 16, if we do that backwards, it would be double it to 32, double it again, 64. So we would need 64 steam a tick to give ourselves 16 KU a tick. Now, steam engines being special because they have to warm up, you may not want to run it right at 16. You would probably be better off to run it at 24 or 32, which, to be fair, you should probably run it at 64, unless, like in this case where we're going from crusher to sluice to centrifuge to shredder, you kind of want to get them paired up pretty well to where one is not filling up more than the other. Like you can see here, I have stuff that is stuck here because it cannot go in here because this runs way slower than here. I probably should upgrade this one and have it run at 64 to keep up with the sluice at 16. But that's not what we're here to discuss today. You should probably, just for the sense of efficiency, if you have the materials, run the machine as close to its maximum as possible, just to get the added speed out of the machine, since there is no penalty for doing so. Now, if we go back to our example over here, this is a rotational engine. This puts power out both sides, and if we look here at it, it says energy in 128 RU, cut in half, 64 KU. Now, what that means is it's going to put 64 KU out each side. So you're not actually losing any power in this case, because if you know anything about car engines, your pistons come down, they push on the crankshaft turns the transmission, which in turn turns your drive shaft, which turns your axle, which makes your car move. Well, if you think of that backwards, if you put power into the crankshaft, it's going to make the pistons go up and down. Now, in a car, they're 4, 6, or 8 rather than 2, and in a car, they are offset to help push each other up and down. But in this case, just imagine that you have a piston that is basically just doing this. And this rotational engine is on a gear, basically, on the top of the engine, on teeth on that piston. And as it goes left and right, or as it goes around, it forces this to go one way, then the other way, back and forth. So it's pushing to this machine, then it's pushing power to that machine. So you're not actually losing anything with this. I have done testing to show and to prove that that is exactly the way it works. If you have any questions, you should be able to find it on my channel somewhere. If I can find it quickly and remember, I will post it up in the corner as well. Then you also have your KU for electric, where you give it EU, and at 50% loss, it will turn that EU into KU. So in this case, what we're running here is an Invar diesel engine that puts out 64 RU a tick, as you can see there. That 64 is going into a steel rotational engine, which is giving us 32 KU to each side. So that is why we have it paired the way we do. So if you look here, similar thing, we have a diesel engine again, which, as we just said, is 64 RU. That is going into an electric dynamo, which if we look up the dynamo, that takes RU in, 64 puts out 44 EU. So this dynamo is putting out 44 EU to this face right here. So if we pop this out, you're getting exactly 44 EU right there. And then this is an electromagnet, which takes EU in and turns it into MU magnetic units. And it works basically the same way. You have north and south poles, and your magnetic force basically rotates or goes in and out. I don't know a whole lot about magnets. It's one of the forces I don't know a lot about. But basically, the way I know how magnets work in an engine. I'm guessing it's similar in this. You have a north pole, you have a south pole, and the magnetic force basically jumps between the two of them, and or travels between whatever. I don't know. But basically, as long as you have this on here with two different machines, it can take the power up and down, because if we put this down, you'll see there is a south side and a north side. And no, they're not going to fight over terrain or whatever. So we just face it like that. So then with the magnet, which I guess I should have used that, and we look at, that's the, where's the actual electromagnet? There it is. So it is 32 EU a tick in, 16 MU a tick out, 50% loss, but that's 50% to each side, so it's 100% efficient. So the 44 is turned into 22. So we're getting 22 EU to the top and 22 EU or MU to the bottom, because the 44 EU is turning into MU, and you're getting half to the top, half to the bottom. So that's basically how that works. Now over here, if we look, this is a little bit, oh no, I actually don't have that one set up here yet. There's actually a point where I will have to put a MV CO2 magnet to run a laser welder to get the right power. So if we look at the welder, it is laser units 32 to 64, and there is a recipe that you will need to do that is 64. And if you look at the laser, we put in CO2, there's the laser, CO2 laser, 50% efficient, 32 EU in, 16 LU out. So therefore, if we put 64 in, we're only going to get 32 out. So if we need to get 64, we have to go to a MV laser and run it at 128 EU a tick to get exactly 64 LU a tick. So we have to run it at exactly that amount. So that is where a manual tag comes in. or any kind of tag, I use the manual one of these, which you can stick onto a electric machine and set it to a specific number that will give you what you want for that machine to put out. Basically, you set it to 8, that's half of the 16 digits you have available for a tag. That means it outputs only at half of its maximum. If you needed 3/4, you would up that to 12. If you wanted to take it down to 1/4, you would do it at 4. An eighth would be 2, so on and so forth. But if you've seen any of my old videos, if you watch that video about the energy, the different energy things, I actually show you machines that have those on there, and you will notice that they are all 8s, because typically that's what you're going to need, is to run not at the maximum, but at the medium. So hopefully that helps explain it. I show you this over here because this is probably one of the first setups that you'll do, is an electrolyzer with a dynamo and a diesel engine. So it's basically the same thing there, except without the magnet. So you're taking the 64 RU here, turning it into 32 EU. Well, actually it's not 32 because the dynamo is not 50%. The dynamo is actually 68.75, so it'll be taking the 64 and putting out 44, and there are recipes that need exactly 42 EU. So by giving it 64 RU here, we end up with 44 here, which is enough to run the recipes I run through here, which are, one of them is garnierite, which if we look at the electrolyzer, you will see it needs 28. And then we also have cassiterite that we run through here, which is 42. So with this simple setup, it'll work and give you 2 more EU than what the recipe calls for. I hope this helped. It basically is the same thing for boilers and heat units for making your steam. I guess I'll go over that real quick. So if we look at a burning box, if we had to go from, say we were looking at this setup here, all right, we'll go from a solid or liquid, it doesn't matter. We need a steel burning box, which outputs 32 heat units a tick. The efficiency doesn't really matter. That is how efficient it burns the fuel. So for this one, it's 32 out. There is no median or anything like that. You're just getting 32 no matter what the fuel is you give it. And then for the boiler, we are using a steel boiler, which it says energy in 32 heat units a tick and puts out 64 steam. So then that 64 steam is going into our engine, which we already discussed that it is 1/4 of what it puts out. So 64 steam goes down to 32, and then for the KU goes down to 16. So what I have running here is the bare minimum that you can run a crusher on, because it is exactly 16 KU, which is the minimum of a bronze tier machine. I could run it faster, but it keeps up with my sluice just fine. So that's why I choose to run it at that. I really hope this helped. If you have any questions, let me know either down in the comments, hit me up on Discord, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you happen to have any of your own special videos that you need made, or you need something explained just a little bit more thoroughly, just let me know and I will do my best to make them for you and hopefully be able to explain it. Have a good one.